Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, Olúwa mi ò dìde ojú ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Theoryforge Chronicles. I am Phantom X, of course, joined by Dig, Sog, and Legendary Neurotoxin. How is everyone doing?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Doing good.
Great. Well, hopefully we're going to have a fair episode. We kind of got some feedback, I think, 2 episodes ago. Anyways, we'll get through all that. We don't really have a specific topic in mind. I think every other show we're going to, we're doing a little bit extra to go over some of the classes and more nuance of those individual classes. But this is just more relative or general to the current event, which is now, what is it? The Curse of the Ghost Fleet. So we have hit some changes in the lore. We've hit some goals within the Searing Plague events. So does anyone, I just noticed that they changed that title. So I really don't know the lore behind that change. Has anyone read or caught up on that?
I didn't know there was going to be
a change. So some folks went on vacation in this one island, and then like the ships, when they were supposed to come back, were instead found run aground. So there was a countess on board, and like her and everyone else were dead. And people were pissed, so her son went to go murder all the people on the little vacation island where she had gone off to. And when they found the bodies, they were all like nasty, as if they had like all been boiled from the inside, and just a big old mess.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. What is that? That's the name of the update? Or are they naming all the updates?
Yeah, I guess that's the name of this update, or the new phase of what's going on with things.
The name of the phase. Okay.
The name of the development phase? Because I just noticed that. Is that what, or the name of the like
the phase of the current event, I would say.
I kind of want to stop and pause for a minute, because I just real quickly, we when we first started covering the event 2 weeks ago, we didn't have.
And the event is called the Searing Plague.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. For those that don't know,
I think we got some feedback, about kind of knocking it pretty hard or those sorts of things. And I just wanted to kind of real quickly go over. We do try to be fair, and we try to offer positive feedback where it's due, and also feedback as to what we think might be better. We all would love to see this succeed as much as anyone else. So, but we are a little bit different in how we approach things, and we have historically been that way. For anyone that watched us with Landmark and some of the other things we've done, is we're pretty, we try to put thought into it and try to be kind of critical. It's not all about being a fanboy to the games that we try to go over, and we've done it just the same with all the other shows. That is not meant to disrespect anyone, and that is not meant to try to discourage anyone. It's just some honest feedback, hopefully from a position to the developers. It's easy, I think, to surround yourself early like this with people who are really, 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 really into it and ready to go. And sometimes it's probably easy to miss out, well, what will the other group that eventually comes into play, what are they going to think? Not just the people who are so invested in it this early. So that's really all we're trying to do, is just sort of offer some of that feedback. And, we don't intend to be overly critical. Sometimes we are, but we also try to offer, what we think is good and what we think might be something to think about going forward. So anyways, I just wanted to go over that. Diggs probably knows why. So that being said, who wants to start? We're really just going to kind of go over the event as it's going. Has everyone still been playing?
Let me just read the newest lore update, because it's just a little bit here. As the summer cycle progressed with record highs, it became difficult to distinguish a case of heat stroke from the boiling blood of the plague. It was during this time that trembling sailors told of the arrivals of a ghost fleet in a port settlement of Tunak. 3 ships, which had been the pride of the Countess Brent's pleasure fleet, had been making a summer tour of the idyllic Gerard Island to escape both the heat and the smell of the death in the city. When the ships run aground in Tunak, the beloved countess, her guests, and all the crew were found dead. The victims appeared to have boiled in their own skin, their lifeless bodies draped about the pleasure barge, oozing in sickness, even as they were picked apart by seabirds. The settlement was gripped by fierce mourning, and the Countess' son Sevo declared war upon the people of Gerard in grief-stricken revenge. With merciless rage, Sevo ordered all peoples of Gerard to death. While his soldiers massacred the innocent commoners, Count Dersh of Gerard dueled with Sevo and swore to his last words that he had caused no harm to Countess Brent and her guests. By this time, Sevo was delirious from disease and struck Dersh down. In the end, both settlements were wiped out, Tunak from the plague and Gerard from the massacre.
And I wanted to give a quick update on where we are. We are at 56.5760% outbreak and 27.4895 on purity and on the cure bar. And the big milestone for us this week was, well, for those of us who want to cure the plague, was hitting 25%. I think the outbreak bar hit 50%. Was that like Monday, or was that earlier than Monday?
I feel like it might have been earlier than Monday.
Okay.
In the last hour or so, the purity bar has gone down.
Really? I thought
Like
it was
when you
26%.
said maybe, or maybe it went up almost a whole percent. Then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably have to refresh.
I refreshed, and the plague bar, since you said that, has gone down 0.0003.
Okay. Yep.
So, and it ends when the 14th, so we still have, I can't do basic math right now, so someone can help me. We still have over 2 weeks to...
3 weeks. We have 3 weeks.
To get through this. So.
Yeah.
3 whole weeks. I have basically stopped playing.
Why is that, Sog?
Well, I still play when Diggs, sends me links, but I'm not even really able to do that anymore because my casual play style has been disrupted by the 50% plague change, where all of a sudden now, instead of just being able to generate 5 purity every day, if I'm going to play, I have to use all of that to neutralize plague, or I have to care a whole lot more about who I'm trading with, or I have to decide that I'm just dealing in plague now. And all of those kinds of decisions are, and extra effort is beyond what I really want to put into it. Like I had found my content. I'm doing this. I'm playing, and I don't know. It wasn't when I opened it up and I had all this plague. It was confusing, and I had to go back and read the update, and it just made it all a little more complex. And I guess that what people wanted me to say is that I'm not playing because I'm playing World of Warcraft, but I'm sitting at my desk and I still have a web browser open. So if I'm playing Searing Plague or not has nothing to do with anything other than whether I care about playing Searing Plague, right? Because it's literally just it's a browser next to me. If I care, it doesn't get in the way of anything. I have no unless I'm asleep, I have no excuse to not do it other than
Well, what I was wanting you to kind of give a little bit more feedback on, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you were fine playing up until you got hit with the nobility plague. Your nobility, you were playing as a soldier.
Aristocracy.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. Right. Nobility got the plague first, and then aristocracy got plague later.
So I'm playing as a soldier, which is kind of like a purity battery. Like the whole thing about being a soldier, like I chose that role because that was what I had available to me previously, because I couldn't even get any plague if I wanted to at the beginning. So I chose I had to, if I was going to pick a role, I had to pick a purity role. I still can't figure out. I did peek and look and see if I could try to switch to plagued or something and have a plague role, but I don't think I can do that.
No, you can only switch to a different purity role with the one-time switch they offered.
Okay, so that doesn't help me at all. But like now my goal, and I explained it last week, was I want to like keep things moving, and I want to be trading things back and forth and injecting into the economy. But instead, I'm neutralizing, and I'm unable to do my role the way that I want to. Or, I mean, I don't know. It just isn't satisfying when any bonus that you get just goes into neutralize. It's like being hit with a handicap out of nowhere but because I don't really care about the end goal, I don't really care about whether plague wins or purity wins. I wasn't playing the game because I was pushing the bars specifically. It's easier for me to just not care and not participate than to try. Like, if I actually cared about the purity bar and the outbreak bar, then I put in the time and I make sure that I trade with the right people and I do this stuff. Fine. Okay. It still just clicks, but I have to go out of my way to find the right people and make sure that I'm trading with the right people. And I have to do all this stuff purposefully, where I was really okay with my previous situation of as long as I trade with somebody, I facilitated whatever anybody does with it. And that was a cool feeling. Now I don't. I mean, Snipe Hunter says, yeah, I could switch to Plague Doctor, but right now, when I was a soldier, and I picked a soldier because it was letting me do something that I wanted to do, and I did what was right, then out of nowhere, the event says that I didn't do what I was doing, so therefore I'm going to punish you by giving you extra plague. Why would I pick a different role when the DM's just going to say, nope, oh, now because you're a plague doctor, you broke both of your legs while you were sleeping.
Everyone playing a plague doctor just breaks their legs all of a sudden.
And now you can't click the generate button except for every 8 hours. And it's not. I play games that may be considered to have punishing mechanics. I like Darkest Dungeon. I like Sunless Sea, but that's like you're taking a known risk and rolling some dice, right? You're rolling on hard odds, but this felt like I'm just not. I don't know. It was like, okay, nope, you can't play like that. That's what it felt like. I don't know. I'm sure that I could read a whole lot more into it and find out that somehow I could see this in a totally different way, but that doesn't matter because something happened and I had a reaction to it, and that's it. It's over. I'm already lost.
That's right. The event said nobility ignored the plague, and Caspian admits that nobility was actually one of the groups that were most heavily invested in playing. So it's the opposite of what was actually happening. And 2, you get hit with a penalty while you're working your butt off trying to participate in the game. So, and I guess you can try and walk that back all you want, but that's the way people are feeling.
It was an arbitrary penalty. It was an arbitrary penalty that had nothing to do with the choices that I made as a player. And I had no idea that I was like moving on to a harder zone or something where things are more difficult. I would have stayed in the old zone. I don't know. But it doesn't matter if you could justify it, because I'm one guy and I felt that way about it, and there's probably somebody else that felt that way about it too. And once people feel that way about it, that's the way it is. Like that is the reality. That I'm a player that felt like he got punished in a HTML click game. And I'm supporting a game that's going to have permadeath that needs to not feel punishing.
Yeah. And so one of the things about that, too, for me, one of the huge problems with this event is that there's not enough transparency in the knowledge and the information. And it's too difficult to understand how the rules are changing and why the rules are changing and how we should best react to the way the rules are changing. So based on the way it was going, once we opened up to the opportunity to change our roles, I changed from Undertaker to Soldier in order to focus more on reducing the outbreak bar. But I think if I had realized that Zog was going to be hit by plague the way he is, I would have stayed as Undertaker and just helped him remove his plague through our trades, which Phantom X could still probably do. But, the whole event would feel better if we had much, 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 much more information.
And the big thing for me is that I want to play super casually. I was actually okay with just doing my one trade a day and generating purity, and I had my role. Kind of like people are saying, I want to have Phantom X says I want to have my farm, right? In Chronicles of Elyria. So I had actually found my little niche. Like, this was what I was doing, and then it all changed.
I don't know.
And that's fine. It's okay. It is just a story event, and it's a story event where people can click to feel like they're involved, and that's fine. But it irritated me beyond belief, and I don't like that feeling in a game of any kind.
Yep.
That's I can't take that away from you, but I gotta say it. I didn't realize that was the exact way that it was playing out. I had heard something about that, but I guess I had thought that it was just autonomously adding a little plague to the bar for everyone who's an ability. Not that you are actually generating the tokens.
No, I generate plague tokens automatically.
Yeah.
And I have to click a button to generate purity tokens to be able to neutralize them. And if I miss that 4-hour period, I just automatically generate 6 plague a day.
I get that. And I feel like that's actually... There's a worthwhile purpose for that, even though it does slow down the progress of people trying to do the cure side of things, is that it infuses plague into the people that would otherwise never have to deal with plague. If everyone goes sage, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of plague to deal with, sages don't really deal with plague. They can eliminate 3 off of somebody a day through their abilities, and that's it. That's not very much. That's certainly not enough to overcome what the event was causing to occur. So instead, it's the idea that this would mean all the plague that's being generated would kind of encourage people, hopefully, to start taking up the roles at the cured tier 2 level that allow for the elimination of plague instead of just everybody being a sage and just, generating 20 plus seals a day like I've been doing. And, I enjoy the role that I'm doing. I've gotten one person their Elyria package, their sage now, they're generating 2. I've got 51 ready to hand off to somebody else, and that's a quarter of the way right there. I generate 20 plus every day, and in the process I also do some amount of cure, and if I'm trading with someone who's plagued, I'm actually removing some plague signs from them. So I actually like kind of how it mixes things up, and yet how my role is still able to stay relevant because I wasn't affected the same way. But if I was, I would totally switch over to Plague Doctor and start taking everybody's plague tokens and just eat them, use the ability. I'm fine with that. It's not that hard.
I mean, I get that just clicking buttons is not hard, and it's great that some groups of people are finding ways to have a lot of fun with the event, but I have tried really, I don't know that in the past I ever tried to push through and like a game before, and I'm not feeling this. Although, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to do, I guess, if you are part of this community and you're trying to get people packages. If for some reason you care about whether a blue or a red bar hits the end of something, it's 100%, then that's great. Okay, I'm happy for people doing that, but I never cared about that to begin with, and I'm not part of the large community. I was just trying to make sure that I was participating in a supportive way. And I might not really, unless people actively nudge me to do something, I'm probably not going to be opening the tab. I'm going to the website still, and I'm going to the forums, and I'm looking for information on, what's next. What about map voting? What about?
You're done with this event.
Well, pretty much. I was done with this event before I even heard of this event.
That's true.
But because it's not meaningful to me, because the result isn't meaningful. Now, the cool thing is that recently there has been a whole lot of written lore, a lot of it surrounding the event, which is neat. It gives us a better idea of the general feeling of the world of Elyria, and a better idea of the setting, and that stuff's good. And creating a way for people to feel like they're involved in that kind of in the lore exposition it's kind of neat. But because I'm happy with or content with whatever the result is, and the event isn't responsive enough for an individual doesn't give me enough feedback as an individual to feel like I'm actually changing the results. So when an event happens in the game, when an eighth of a bar, a quarter of a bar fills up, which has been changed. The periodic changes have been changed. To me, it doesn't feel any different to it just happening randomly, which is fine too. But I mean, at least we're getting some cool story out of it. But I would have probably rather. I would have got a lot more out of it if I just read a story about a plague and I heard about different sides fighting about it and I was able to read about it. And in the end, when I'm done reading this, I have a much better idea of what it feels like to play in the world, to play the game in the world of Elyria, because I understand the perspective of a Drass when there's a plague. I understand the perspective of Toresk when there's a plague, and I understand why some people may be supporting the plague and what that affects out of it. And I would have I would have probably rather had that, but because of the way that the interaction happened during the game, I just get a little put off by it, and I struggle to then read the lore. But what I meant that was changed was there were some posts in Discord saying that there was a plan to have plague events every 1/8 of a bar or something like that, and then it changed back to every 1/4 of a bar because it was happening too rapidly. Where Caspian was saying that the ideas of when things would happen would change back and forth. I could find the quote, but that I'm not imagining this, am I?
We could be imagining a lot of different things.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess the lore is kind of cool, but I do want to hear more about the next stuff. The next stuff it's when we start to feel like we're actually a part of the game, I think. That for communities that already exist, this has been fine. They've been able to work together. They've been able to see how well they can muster their resources for an arbitrary goal. They got some new people officially into the game, and we got some lore out of it. So
I think that's what.
Hold on.
I do not have any dogs.
It's me. Hold on.
I gotta say though, I think we've mentioned it on previous episodes. I'm gonna bring it back up again. How and in what way is this involved with Doctors Without Borders, other than like mentioned in just a couple of places? Like, is the revenue from all of the items being sold during this period, items just being sold exclusively for this event? Like, what's going towards it? Like, that's something that I've been wondering about a little bit, because I like Doctors Without Borders. I appreciate what they do, but it's been like mentioned and kind of not even teased, just like it was mentioned and that was it. And I'd like to know a lot more about that, to be perfectly honest. It's kind of a perplexing sort of thing, how elaborate this event is versus how like relatively small the push is for fundraising, or really trying to actively sell the items as part of a Doctors Without Borders fundraiser. And then I guess the other part of it I was thinking about, and I don't know how people roll with these sorts of things. Like, could it be set up in such a way that like the items we buy during this event, we get part of like a charitable donation out of or something? Because I'd be down for that.
It's a great question, and that's something I'm actually more interested in that than anything. I've said I'm not disappointed in SBS. I'm not upset. The game is just not a style for me. It's not on a platform where I can do it, and that's fine. So for me, that did grab my attention more than anything, because you had mentioned that, and it's something that I've heard before, but it's not something I've seen anywhere. And so I did start looking, and on the first post, I mean, there is a mention at the bottom, this is, in support of that, check it out. For people who don't know, that's sort of my profession, and that's like a really important group of physicians that go and do that. I mean, so it's great that you sort of try to make this somehow tied into that, because they can use a lot of support. And but I couldn't find it anywhere other than that. I looked and looked, and at the bottom of the event page where you have your bars, it shows you can the store page, and so I looked there. Does it say anything? It's not there. It's not not in the items when you look at their title, their description. It's not in the checkout bar. It's not on the page that's talking about the event. It's not on the FAQ. I think that's a great thing, but where's the rest of the? Because it said on the post, right? Throughout the event, we will be announcing this, and all I could find was sort of a link to their to the actual Doctors Without Borders website to donate directly to them, which is fine. But I don't know. I was curious about that too, because I couldn't really find anything that said hey, we're giving a portion, we're not giving a portion.
So apparently they said, Snipe said in chat that the information will be coming next week.
Yeah, I just
about Doctors Without Borders. So it's good to know. I mean, it's like the event's halfway over or whatever at this point, so it feels like it's a little late to be hearing about this. But I'm glad that it'll be finally addressed and hopefully incorporated into more of the event through the remainder of it here.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just not my style of game. I mean, I've made that clear since the beginning. It's just not on a platform where I'm really going to ever be engaged to do it. That being said, if I knew, hey, 50% of whatever is being donated here, okay, I might actually be a little bit more willing to sort of say, well, if part of that's going somewhere positive, I'm probably not going to pay the game or play with this event, but I at least will do something to try to help there. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something that was starting to kind of irritate me a little, probably more so just because it's directly related to what I do. But so hopefully they do get something out there. Maybe start advertising it a little bit more, putting it on the actual event page. Even if it's just a link to their donation site. I mean, at least just if you said you're going to do this in support of something, at least just sort of continue to do it. Even if that's just a direct link to someone else's webpage. I mean, that's fine, but that's all. My thought on this, it's just not something for me. I'm still very much looking forward to the game. I can't wait till we actually finally get into Vox Elyria. I know everyone has a little bit different opinions. Personally, for me, I don't feel like this doesn't make me upset with the studio. I'm not worried about what they're going to do. I feel like this was a community event, and actually I'm kind of happy they did this to try to bring, there are parts that can be better. I think communication and just all that could obviously be better, but I'm actually kind of happy they've done this to try to bring, I guess it's a question of bringing new verses for the existing group, but I like that they did that. I mean, that to me actually says that hopefully going forward, once things are moving along, these sorts of things may continue in game. I don't know. It almost reminds me of sort of like a GM event in EverQuest, which I always enjoyed. So,
I think that GM events are tricky, and that I agree that they can be fun, and I participated in a lot of them in IKEA, of course, in my years playing that game, but that when it's a GM or DM-led event, that players need to still feel like their individual actions are making a difference. And that right now, because the things that you do in the game, you may you may see a 0.0003 change in a bar, but you can't directly correlate that back to what you did. And so unless you're actively curing people, it's like Neuro gets all kinds of feedback from what he's doing because he's curing people, right? Like that is, and the reason that people fall into that play style is because that's where you can feel like you accomplished something.
It provides the most concrete information and a goal that's achievable even if we lose the event.
Yeah, so when a DM event occurs in a situation when you're unable to notice what you've accomplished and what you've changed, like because you're not curing people and you're just like watching these bars, so you can't figure out really how you're doing it, then it crosses this line of it flips this little switch of, well, am I really a player in this game, or am I just a prop for the DM to tell his story? And really you're a little bit of both in this, right? Because that's what it is. It is the GM's story, right? It is Soulbound's story that they're telling, and we are kind of props into it. But when you make people feel like they have the ability to affect change, I don't know.
I just want to jump in real quick here because I feel I would be having more fun if I could see what other people are doing. I mean, I kind of know what people on the purity side are because I'm on the purity side and I'm interfacing directly with people who are cured or pure every day. What's happening on the plague side is like a hole, like a black hole of information. And I would feel much better if we could easily see each other's pages, and we could see what roles they've taken, and we could see that they're actively participating and how they're participating. I would love to know how my currently soldier role interfaces with the field agent or the thief. By the way, there's a link, and I don't know if I can post links, but if we could post that one link of the visual role guide, that would be nice. I mean, it was 2 weeks gone by before I could even get a good feel of what the plague roles were. So I would feel much better if I could have an easier interaction with the plagued, if I could have an easier interaction with and see everybody's pages, kind of like in, is it blizzard.net or battle.net on WoW, where you can see people's armor sets and stuff like that.
It used to be battle.net.
The armory.
Something like that. But I would also be having much more fun if we could get write-ups like a day in the life of a soldier, or a day in the life of a field agent, or a day in the life of a plague bringer, like we were having for Revival. I mean, my interaction with Revival was much more engaging and fun than, well, anything that's happened so far with Chronicles of Elyria. But there's just too much of a dearth of information, basic information sharing, in my view, all the way around.
I want to not talk too much more about the event unless somebody has something specific to say, because
I have stuff to say about the events. Like legendary neurotoxin mentioned curing Sailkite last show, and by Tuesday or Wednesday I think, by Wednesday night I think it was, that we had cured Sailkite, and it was really, a lot of it was Neuro and myself and Snipe Hunter working on that. One thing that did surprise me about that is I was hoping to, so we got to a point, I think he had like 25 points of plague left, and I was planning to wait. We did that at like, I don't know, sometime during the night, and I was planning to wait until our abilities reset so that I could help him out, but also actively affect the outbreak bar, reduce the outbreak bar. Snipe Hunter came in and just cured him all in mosh anyway. And I think that's another weird thing to me. Like, I think I have an idea of how to play the game. Like, okay, let's wait so we can also do this, not just cure him, but also affect the outbreak bar. And then apparently that's not a good strategy or not the best. I mean, it's just weird because it feels like we don't know how to play. And Snipe Hunter knows how to play because he's involved with it. But
now,
I feel
like you said in chat, he just happened to be sitting on 50 at the time.
I was
got
sitting
50
on 10
right now.
I know. I was sitting on 10, but I'm just saying we could have kept going, but it seemed to me like it would also be helpful to decrease the outbreak bar. But I guess that's what I'm saying. So
I guess it's helpful if you care about decreasing the outbreak bar. There are plenty of other, but you
apparently
can
the person who's working on the game doesn't care about that, and right,
that's fine. Why would you care about decreasing the outbreak bar or maximizing the purity bar or vice versa?
Well, if he doesn't care, why should I? I'm just saying. Why should I? I'm just saying that's just the whole.
Well, he can't care, but
I don't know. He cares about curing people. He cares about something.
But I don't know.
He chose a role for some reason.
I don't know why. Because the information on what the plague biome is like and what the world is like on either way and whether or not some servers would have it and some servers won't and how that affects how I actually play the game is like, that's a total unknown. Like the first things, we've got some information about it. We've got some ideas about it. We've got a little bit of information coming, but other than just picking an RP motive, there's no reason, because we don't know what it's like once you get into the game to play the game, when there is a plague biome and when there isn't a plague biome. It's literally picking an arbitrary side, right?
Sure, but it's that way for me too. If I had bought a Deviant package, I would, if I could make a second account, which it bugs me that I can't, and I could buy a Deviant package, I would make a different account that would be for my Dross character, my Dross alt, and I would buy a Deviant package, and I'd be working also to try and increase the plague from the Dross point of view. I don't necessarily
received any information on how this plague works with the Dross. Are they totally immune to this?
No, they're not totally immune, and they might be a little resistant to it, but they've succumbed to it too. They thought they were going to be immune to it, but it turned out that they were not. I don't want to get into that.
You don't want to get into that. I want you to get into that.
No, you want me to get into the racist aspects that I don't like about the lore?
Oh.
All right. I think that Sog was wanting to move on.
Wait a second. But I think my point is I don't really care too much about which side wins. I care about understanding what effects I'm having and being able to anticipate the impact I'm having, whereas I feel like I don't know because
we don't know what walking in the world feels like.
No, I don't mean even that part. I'm saying the event. I keep trying to do stuff in the event, and I don't know what's having an effect or why it should have an effect, other than literally, curing people or when we trade and I get some purity back. Okay, but in terms of actually affecting these bars, it feels like there's no point in doing anything at all, really.
But, it is interesting to watch people care.
On a lot of different levels. Yeah.
If we do say one more thing about this event, as we're almost towards the end of our hour anyway, there was some talk about it was the purity bonus, which was an added effect to a purchasable item Right. That was
Two.
Yeah. So,
Missionary supplies and the Vintner starter kit.
Okay. So when this happened, I complained a little bit about the 50% plague bar, changing the way that I actually played the game. Well, the way that when the purity bar hit this, it didn't change anything other than now I have the option to potentially buy something. And there's a little bit of community backlash about that. And we have that quote from those Caspian's response to the community backlash was basically, you can feel that way if you want, but if you feel that way, you're wrong. And it is how it really came out. We have the whole quote I could read here. Oh wow, you guys spammed everything. I'm scrolling up to this quote. So it says, for those here, my understanding is there's a vocal group complaining about the 25% cure rewards, which consisted of 2 elements, 5% reduction in outbreak, and items the community had previously purchased being added to a list of bonus items, da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, there are 2 ways to look at them. Either it's a cash grab, which was partially the complaint, that it was saying, okay, if you guys really want purity to win, go buy stuff. And back to quotes here, by adding a passive bonus to those items is going to cause people who previously hadn't purchased one to rush out and do so, or it's a way to add cumulative snowballing, ongoing residual bonus to the community based on what people have already done without having knowledge of any bonus to this game. You're, of course, free to pick either one of those as your perceived reason why we made it part of the 25% reward, but I can tell you this. The passive benefits for those items cease to exist after the Searing Plague event, so there's no long-term value in rushing out to buy those items based solely on their benefit to the event. Now, I understand, okay, we got this purity milestone. So generally what's happened, if I compare it to the adding plague to aristocracy when the plague hits 50%, okay, we add some momentum to the bar when it hits a different phase. Okay, by adding these effects to packages, to items people have already bought, it does do that. It also does say, go buy something if you want to produce more purity. It's not a binary choice of which way that you look at it. And when I read this quote, a couple things stand out. Well, first, you say, my understanding, there's a vocal group complaining. The choice of these words is specific because it means that you are assuming that the vocal group is either very small or it diminishes the value. The wording diminishes the value of the people complaining by saying, oh yeah, they're just this small. It's a term that's used, like the vocal minority, that you say, oh yeah, people are complaining, but the people who are complaining are really just a tiny little part of the whole. And it's an assumption with no reason why that's truth or not.
And the passive portion of that makes it worse is I understand that there is. I kind of hear this. I don't really know, but people are saying this when,
I would have liked to not receive this message because it comes across as, and it's a continual response that we get from Caspian when people react negatively to something is, well, you're just looking at it wrong. You don't like the way my face looks? You're looking at me wrong. Can't you just like turn and look out of your left eye, man? Like, no, that's not how the world works. You don't, if people don't like something, they don't like it. And the best way, and you either, one, just don't care. And if you just don't care, say you just don't care. Or two, you have to think about why they might not like it and accept that as a valued opinion. I don't really care about the cat shop item or anything. It's the reaction was.
The other response that I saw was damned if we do, damned if we don't. I think that for me, Snipe Hunter and Polaris say that I misread the lore on this. But I think, again, it's very clear what the lore says. The lore says that the nobility ignored the plague, so they were hit with the plague, and they tried to do all this stuff. People tried to do all this stuff, didn't realize that water was the issue. The missionaries went around with their supplies, and we realize now that it's wine that is going to be the savior. And then at the same time, these packages come up that you can buy the vintner's kit and you can buy the missionary supplies. You can purchase them now, which says to me, it's your fault if this is what's going to turn the tide. So it's your fault if you don't buy these packages and the plague wins. I think I would be happier. Polaris seemed to say that she didn't mind because she had already purchased the packages, or she was purchasing the packages for other reasons, those two kits or those two items. But I think if it was something that was purchasable before and did not come right on the heels of that lore, or if we couldn't buy those two items now and it was just legacy items, I would feel happier about the way that went down. But I have lots of issues with the way the lore is dealt. Supposedly the lore is supposed to have, I don't know. Snipe Hunter says it has everything to do with what we're doing, but I don't. On the other hand, Caspian also says it doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing. So
the timing of that, when you, and again, this was, I looked just because I was looking at the Doctors Without Borders. They actually did announce those two items in the store at the same time as at the very beginning of the event. So it's not like, they started the event, boom, this hits, and then they add those to the stores. Those were added several weeks ago. So it's not like, Now, in
there's an additional incentive to buy if you care about the result of the event, right?
I think what I'm saying is
that's a fact.
I wish that it was not, because of the way the lore is written. I would prefer if they were not available now to buy and they were legacy items, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Because the way the lore is written, it says it's your fault if you don't buy these items to cure the plague. And
that would have been an interesting way to do it. Is you could have had those helped, but no more. But that's just a different way of telling. See, that's a different direction for the story.
I feel like the message could probably be like you just spent time talking. The message probably could be done better, and I think there are probably other instances where the message could be presented better. When it comes right down to this whole idea of these items, I actually have no problem with it. I mean, if you've been doing this all along, you've already, well, not everyone, but most people has already spent money. It is already known that things you buy will get you a head start. This isn't new. Some people might call that pay to win. We've already known that. So that's not a new thing. I actually, and I think 2 shows ago it was in chat talking about that this really isn't necessarily a recruiting event. It can be. It's really more of an event for existing community to try to get everyone together. So again, and in that context as well, you have to assume a lot of these people already own things. I got benefits from stuff I had purchased. I'm I didn't know that until like 2 weeks in when I was like, why am I getting all this purity? I have no idea. I'm not touching any buttons. But I don't. This is sort of a style that they've already. I mean, it's already known. It's not new. So I don't know. My personal feeling.
I don't have any problem with it. With them creating a new item tomorrow that says that plague will, or that it will create a huge amount of plague or purity specifically involved with the event, and I think that that's fine. I think that because the effect from the purity bonus was tied to a cash shop item when the effects for the other bonuses were not. That it mixes two things. It's kind of like if we're going to tie things to cash shop items, well, let's just put out cash shop items on both sides and people can buy it, or we'll attach them, or I don't know. It does do what the goal of the bonuses is increase the momentum. Fine, I get that. It's like an unfortunate coincidence that it ties to a cash shop item, because people could feel like all of a sudden now this is more pay to win. You could continue to buy. You could continue to buy items that were affecting plague and purity anyway. So it's not like that changed.
Right. So my issue is that I already bought a physician set for $30 because I felt like I was not. I didn't feel like I was having any effect. So I bought a physician set so I could have faith that I'm having some effect or more effect than what I was doing by clicking buttons. And then the lore comes out that says, oh, the reason why the outbreak bar is this far along and the purity bar is not this far along is because you didn't get wine and you didn't do mission supplies. That's what it says to me. And if you don't get them now, and I'm not getting them now because I already spent $30 and I have no guarantee that that's going to have any effect. I have no guarantee that if I spend $75, I'm going to have any effect. But that's what it says to me is you had the opportunity and we're telling you now. And if you don't, it's your fault for not buying. And I don't know that it matters exactly when they came online, but the wording of the lore makes it problematic.
The only thing I want to add, because we are starting to get towards the end, just as, I guess, feedback. So while it was made known in, was it Discord? So I think there are a couple places it was made known that the items do not stack. That is actually not mentioned in the store. So it's something maybe to think about if players aren't actually in Discord. When you go to the item to purchases, it says, hey, this generates, whatever for this event, but it doesn't say they don't stack.
It's funny because for me, it was implied, but now that you mention, I realize, oh crap, people that played like Mafia Wars and stuff are totally used to having stacks and stacks of items for effect. So I could see how there could be a misconception with a web clicky game.
So, anyways.
Yeah, I think that it's if it's the previous events that worked well, like the one in the spring, which was literally just if the dollar amount of sale items got to certain levels, then the whole community gets a reward. And it got tons of participation. And I remember towards the end, Snudbutter posts on Twitter like, man, we've got like 8,000 left to go. I don't think there's any way we're going to get this next reward. And then 15 minutes later, he's like, what? Sorry. People were literally spending just to spend. So, tying Searing Plague to cash shop related stuff, it only makes sense. The community is already receptive to spending money to move a progress bar. So, I don't know why we would. I don't know why anyone who still is following Chronicles of Elyria would care about that, because that's just a given. That's the way we know of things, is that, if the community spends more money, the community gets more things. So I'm very much okay with that continuing. Just with the way that everything about this event comes down to people who are playing don't get all of the right feedback from the game for what they're doing, so we have to think too hard about it, and we have to look for other things, and we have to make up reasons in our head of why what we're doing matters, and a lot of people have been able to have fun with it. I've even had some fun with it myself, thinking about it, but it's very confusing. Actually, in our talk about it today, I feel a little bit better about maybe just going back and doing my clicking and not caring about all the plague I have. And if somebody asks me to send them 5 plague, I'll send them 5 plague. But because that just got dropped on me, and it felt like from nowhere, and I didn't know and I didn't understand what was going on, it didn't feel good when that happened. But now I can just keep trading my purity like I was doing, and if anyone asks for, periodically look at Discord, and if anyone asks for plague, I'll send it to them, because all I do is send stuff to people, and that's fine with me. But I hadn't even considered that, because it felt like when I logged in and I had a bunch of plague, that it was counteracting what I was doing, but it wasn't clear to me that really it just opens up something totally different that I can do, because it's a volume of stuff increase, right? So now,
and again, if you're trading with Phantom, he can get rid of the plague for you.
I don't care who I trade with. If he wants me to trade them to him, that's fine. But it's like, really, I just get 6 more things a day for free if I'm just trading. If it's all about volume, right? And it kind of is. That was what I was doing for me. I was just about volume, but the perception that I had from the game and what the game was telling me before we talked through it, and hearing from Snipe Hunter a little bit, was it felt like it was canceling what I was doing instead of allowing me to actually do more.
I think aristocracy and nobility would have felt better as well if there were aristocracy and nobility roles, and somehow that was associated with what just happened. But
yeah, well, I'll just start trading away my plague to people who ask for it, and we can talk more. What role do we want to talk about next week?
Oh, we'll talk about it during the week. We'll talk about it during the week. I kind of want to talk about some of the plague rolls now that they're listed out a little bit better there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So I feel like we just had a little therapy session, and we all feel much better now.
I was already fine.
What is clear is that everyone clearly cares, or we wouldn't be doing this. So, yeah, Diggs.
I care about quality. I'm a quality assurance person, so that's why I'm involved in the game, participating.
Okay. All right. Any last words? No.
Nah. See you next week for the early mini half show.
All right, guys.
Oh, wait. Let's plug Town Crier and BBC.
Yeah.
If we can.
Do you
Town
know
Crier episode 79.
Yeah. Do you know when? Go ahead.
So episode 79 for Town Crier was a week ago. They did talk about the Searing Plague, so I'm guessing they'll have another one this weekend. And I'm not sure when the BBC one was out, but the last.
Usually they're Thursday evenings. Oh, right.
Yeah, I had links for them actually. So I think it's episode 20 and 21 are the full episodes, and then they have one about strategy, which is about 6 minutes, and they have another opening to the Searing Plague. But I think it's BBC Board Whale something. What's the name of the
Board Wheel broadcast?
Yeah,
I am copying your links and putting them in here.
okay,
There we go. There's the YouTube videos for Morbus' show and Deletherus. Do you say Deletherus? Is that
I don't
how
say
it's-
anything.
I don't know. The king of board wheel. I don't know how to say his name either. But
From the person who has a silent T in his name. All right, and with that, thanks for watching. We'll be back in a week with a short stream. Peace.
Later, folks.